This is Lolo the Maverick. This is Maverick Mind Sports, and this is my predictions for the NFC Championship and the AFC Championship. And I just want to say that to begin the season, not to begin it, but before the season even started, my original Super Bowl pick was the Eagles and the Texans. I believe that I thought the Texans were going to be very good, especially adding Stephon Diggs and Joe Mixon. Obviously, they had a disappointing year. I mean, they did make the playoffs, but they didn't go as far as I thought they were going to go. But I kind of had a feeling that they weren't going to make it to the Super Bowl. We're nowhere near it around the middle of the season. So I believe around week 9, week 8, something like that, I started changing my Super Bowl matchup prediction. I changed it to the Eagles and the Bills. I just love the way Josh Allen has been playing this season. I was critiquing him on the fact that up until this season, he's had a lot of interceptions. He made that a really bad habit. But this year, he completely changed my mind about that. This is his best year ever with a turnover ratio. I mean, he's been great with the football, protecting it this year. Ball security's been amazing. So I was wrong about him about that. So I'll take that back. He's a great player. I knew that. I just knew that he needed to get rid of that turnover problem, and he did. And look where he's at now. So that's all I got to say about that. Let's get into these games, right? So first we have the 3 o'clock game. It's the Eagles and the Commanders. The Commanders will be coming to Philadelphia. Going to Philadelphia. I'm just in PA, so I happen to say it like that. The Commanders are going to be going to Philadelphia to play in the Lincoln Financial Stadium, which is going to be a very hostile environment. It's definitely going to play a big factor. I know Jayden Daniels been very good and very poised all season long, but this is going to be a very, very different type of atmosphere for him that I don't know if he's going to be able to overcome, at least as a rookie. But nonetheless, Jayden Daniels is the best rookie quarterback ever, in my opinion. And I think in a lot of people's opinions. Phenomenal player. I honestly really have nothing bad to say about him. I really don't. I'm a diehard Eagles fan, but I like to keep it real, unlike other fans. A lot of y'all don't keep it real when it comes to the Eagles, okay? Especially you Commanders, Cowboys, and Giants fans. You really don't. But I like to keep it real. I know who's who and what's what. Jayden Daniels is super special. And honestly speaking, if anybody in the world was going to beat the Eagles in this game, it would be Jayden Daniels and that Commanders team. I think that the way that they've been playing is very, very relentless. They're playing great team ball. From the coaching to the play calling, I mean, everything is clicking for them. But here's my take on that. They need everything to click for them today. They need everything to click, right? They can't make mistakes that they're prone to, right? That they've done, that kept them in closer games this season. They can't afford that against the Eagles, and especially not in Philly. They cannot do that. Maybe at home they can overcome that, but in Philly, it's not going to work out for them. Jalen Hurts is 6-2 against the Commanders ever since he became a starter, right? From when he starts the game and finishes the game, his record is 6-2. But because the last time that they played, he left the game in the first quarter after only 4 passing attempts. Unfortunately, he had a concussion. He could not finish the rest of the game. He basically missed the whole game. The Commanders will go to win that game, and Jayden Daniels threw 5 touchdowns in that game. But he did have 2 interceptions in that game, and then the first time the Eagles and Commanders played, he had 1 interception. And he had 1 touchdown, so he really wasn't that impressive. I believe he was battling an injury, but that was in Philly. Just to remind y'all, that was in Philly. So, at the end of the day, Jalen Hurts, in my opinion, he owns the Commanders. And just to let y'all know, he averages 244 yards against the Commanders passing. So for all of that narrative about Jalen Hurts can't throw, blah, 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 I just don't want to hear it anymore, because at the end of the day, if people actually did their research, he averages almost 300 passing yards against them, which is more than average for him as a player in general. So he plays really well against the Commanders. He knows his team. He knows their weaknesses. Let's get down to the statistics, right? So rushing, the Eagles averaged 184.3 yards in the regular season, which makes them second in rushing. Washington is third in rushing. They averaged 151.7 yards. So it was a 32.6 yard difference that the Eagles have the edge on, which is no surprise. The Eagles run the ball way more than a lot of other teams, but that's really good. That's really close. Both teams are really good at running the ball. Defensively against the run, the Eagles have allowed 104.7 yards average rushing. And then the Commanders, which makes them ninth. And then the Commanders averaged, they allowed 138.9 yards, which makes them 30th. Big difference. It's a 34.2 yard difference, which is very critical, very, very, very important, and very key in this game, because we all know that the Eagles are going to run the ball a lot. They've been doing it all year. The Eagles were basically 32nd, 31st in passing attempts. It's no secret that the Eagles are going to run the ball. But here's where things get interesting, right? So let's go on to the passing. Offensively, the Eagles averaged 177.9 yards passing. Makes them 31st. And yet they're in the NFC Championship. Washington, 13th in passing for the regular season, averaging 222.7, 44.8 yard difference a game. Now, you would think that the Commanders would have been averaging way more yards passing, the way that people were talking about them, especially in comparison to the Eagles. But to me, 44.8 is really not that much of a difference. I mean, it could literally be one play that makes them average the same amount. Like, one big play can change that dynamic, and now they both average the same amount of passing yards. Then what do you have to say about passing? So that's how I feel about that, based off those statistics. Now, against the pass defensively, the Eagles are the second best team against the pass. They were ranked second, averaging, allowing 181.4 yards a game passing, right? So they only allow, 40-something, not even that. But anyways, the whole point is, they haven't even really been allowing even 200 yards passing. So I think that's highly impressive. As for the Commanders, they've been allowing 196 yards passing, which is also impressive. The Eagles were ranked second. The Commanders were ranked fifth. So very close when it comes to passing defense, as well as, passing on offense. So the passing game is almost similar on both sides. Both teams are really good against the pass, and they're both good at passing. Well, I wouldn't say really good, but I would say decent at passing, right? Both the strengths for both of them are running the ball. Let's get into the before I get to that, let me say that the Eagles were the best against the pass all year long. They've allowed the least amount of passing yards for the season. They allowed the least amount of total passing yards out of all 32 teams. Now, as far as rushing, the Eagles have put up 3,048 rushing yards, right? Which makes them, I believe they're top two. But the Commanders have ran for 2,619 yards, 429 yard difference when it comes to the way they run the ball. So the Eagles are obviously way more better at running the ball than they are when it comes to how many yards they totally rush for. Another thing, the Eagles have 26 takeaways defensively. That's including the postseason, I believe. Washington only has 17 takeaways, which is still impressive, I think. But I think having almost, having 10 plus, having almost 30 takeaways, I think is highly impressive. And obviously the Eagles got the edge there. The Eagles have only been allowing 17.8 points a game. The Commanders have been allowing 23 points a game. Big difference there. And that's going to be another key. They can't afford to let the Eagles start off hot, because if they do, then it's definitely going to be a challenge for them to keep the Eagles from getting away with this one. It's going to be critical. And with that being said, the Eagles have allowed 303 total points, which makes them second, right behind the Los Angeles Chargers. They had 301 total points allowed, which is crazy impressive. But a 2-point difference to me is really not that different. You could just basically say that the Eagles have allowed the least amount of points, right? Because I mean the Chargers are no longer relevant at this point in time. So that's gonna be very important in this game. This game is gonna come down to who can make the least amount of mistakes, least amount of penalties. That's gonna have the least amount of effect on the outcome of the drive. You can't have penalties in a game like this where every play is really gonna count and your positioning on the field. It goes for the Eagles and it goes for the Commanders. There's gonna be a lot of high emotions. They're gonna make mistakes. They're just gonna be antsy. It's football. It happens, and it's a lot of pressure on games like this. So I do think that's gonna play into this game. Whoever makes the least amount of mistakes in both games, honestly, is gonna be the team to win. I think as long as the Eagles do what they have to do, and take care of the football, I think the Eagles win this game. Obviously, I'm going with the Eagles to win. I think the Commanders are a great team. I think if Jayden Daniels can move the ball and if they can run the ball efficiently early on, I like their chances of keeping it close. If this Eagles defense can pull a takeaway early on and capitalize off of it, the Commanders are going to be in trouble unless they can do the same thing. If the Commanders do that to the Eagles and they get the lead, the Eagles are in trouble. I don't want to see the Eagles playing catch up. I want to see them I just want to see them dominate, right? And that's speaking as a fan. That's speaking as a football fan in general. I'm not going to get too personal about what I think the Eagles are going to do because I have my own belief system. I'm being realistic based off the statistics right now. But I do think that the Eagles defense is too much. I think they're too aggressive. I do think that they're going to force the Commanders to make a mistake. And I think that it's more pressure on the Commanders to try to play a perfect game than for the Eagles to. And for one main reason and one main reason only. The Eagles went to the Super Bowl in 2023, right, for the 2022 season. Well, 2021 season, but they went in 2022, right? So they had a great game against the Chiefs. Because of defense, because of the Jalen Hurts fumble, they ended up losing about 3 points. After all of those mistakes, they only lost by 3 points. That put a chip on their shoulder. Now, the following season, they start off 10-0, and then they collapse. And once again, another failure, colossal failure for the Eagles. So 2 years in a row, the Eagles have been very close to winning the Super Bowl or even getting close to the Super Bowl, having a good season, and then just crumbling in the critical moments. I think that has gave this team character. I think that has humbled this team. I think that showed this team that you need to play all 4 quarters. You cannot be hype and excited and celebrating off of plays when the game's not over. That's one problem that I have with the Eagles, is that they like to run their mouth a lot, and they like to do a lot of talking instead of just playing and keeping their mouth shut until they get to moments like this. This is the moment where if you win this game, you can say whatever you want, right? But the job is still not done. Even if you win this game, you still have one more to go. And I think that's one of the main problems with the Eagles, is that they get content with where they are and what they've accomplished. And I think because of those 2 heartbreaking seasons, I think that's gonna be the main reason why in this game they're gonna stay poised. They're gonna be excited, of course, if they have big plays, but I don't think that Sirianni, and I don't think that Fangio and the staff, I don't think that they're going to really let the players get out of hand when it comes to that. They need to stay in check. They need to stay on point. They need to stay focused, okay? It's going to be a critical game. The Commanders are not going to take anything lightly. They're going to give it their all. I have a very unorthodox take on what the Eagles are going to do in this game. I think that there's so much attention on Saquon Barkley that people forget that Jalen can actually throw the ball. They forget that Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown and Goddard exist. I don't know why people act like it's all about Barkley. It's you got to give credit to the defense as well. But my take on it is this. I think that the Eagles should and will get going early with the pass game, right? Something they haven't been able to really do all year long. They did it last week going into the Rams game. In the first drive, Barkley really didn't touch the ball. Jalen had 4 dots, and then he runs for a 50-yard touchdown. Barkley did the rest after that, of course. But I just love the way that they started that drive, because they shut everybody up that was questioning Jalen Hurts' arm ability, arm strength, whatever you want to call it. Don't know why you guys keep doing that. To me, at this point, it's really pathetic. It's really annoying that people keep questioning the arm of Jalen Hurts and the accuracy of Jalen Hurts. I don't understand why people are so hard on his mistakes, but they're not talking about all the other elite quarterbacks with their mistakes, right? So I see a lot of bias when it comes to that. And as a football fan, I think it's disgusting. I think it's corny. I think it's weak. And I think as football fans, at some point in time, you guys have to be realistic with yourselves and think about everything that Jalen Hurts has accomplished in his 5 years of being a starter. And yeah, I think that what the Eagles need to do, get AJ going early, get Devontae going early, get Goddard going early, maybe mix in a little bit of RPO, and then once they get the pass game going and they got the Commanders on edge, that's when they start running the ball with Barkley. I don't think that Barkley's just going to get the ball off the rip and just, too predictable to me. That's, in my opinion, that's too predictable. I think the Eagles can definitely capitalize off all that attention on Barkley, because we know that they're going to pack the box. We know that they're going to try to limit Barkley as much as possible. Something that all teams have been trying to do all year and haven't had no answer for Barkley. He's on the verge of rushing for 3,000 yards this season. He's just having the most incredible season I've ever seen a running back have. In my opinion, he's the best running back in the league. He's been one of the top running backs in the league, in my opinion, for a while. He was just, unfortunately, on the New York Giants, and that was holding him back from his true potential. But I think the Eagles can definitely use that to their advantage. And once they do have a lead, and once they do feel like they're in position where they're comfortable enough with the passing game, I want to see Barkley just get the ball and go off. I think Jalen Hurts is going to throw for what he usually averages against the Commanders. I think he's going to throw between 250 and 300, to be honest with you. I don't think that the Eagles are going to rely on Barkley to carry them in this game. It's going to be a statement game for Jalen Hurts. It's going to be a statement game for the pass game. It's going to be a statement game in general. So I think that's what the Eagles got to do. I don't want to see predictable play calls. I don't want to see Barkley get the ball 20 times in the first half. The play calling has to be exquisite. It has to be confusing for the defense. It needs to be very, very, they need a combination of plays, not just run it up the middle, run to the outside, that type of stuff. That's what I want to see from the Eagles. That's what I expect. And I know everybody thinks that Barkley's just going to get the ball 20 times and he's just going to run all over the Commanders. But that would be way too predictable. So that's my take on what the Eagles are going to do. As far as the Commanders, Jayden Daniels needs to take care of the football like he's been doing all year. He needs to get his receivers going early up against this tough Eagles matchup. Their their defensive backs are very good. And it's going to be very critical that he's accurate with his passes, obviously. He chooses wisely when he runs. Because the way the Eagles hit, I mean, they hit very hard out there. I mean, the Eagles injured so many players this year. So I think Jayden Daniels needs to be very critical of when he runs out the pocket. And he needs to also be very critical of when he extends the plays, that he doesn't do too much. Because if he tries to make an amazing play and do too much and he does it at the wrong time, he's going to turn the ball over. With that being said, I do think that the Eagles will have 1 to 2 takeaways. They might even have more because they had 5 in the last matchup. I think this Eagles defense is going to be too much for the Commanders. And I think because of the Eagles defense, I don't think it's going to be a 1-possession win for the Eagles. I think the Eagles win by double digits in this game. I have my own score prediction that I believe is going to happen. But yeah, I think for the Commanders to win this game, they need to run the ball efficiently early on. If they don't get the run game going and they rely on Jayden Daniels to pass from the pocket for the rest of the game playing catch up, they're not going to win. It's not going to go down like that. I promise you that. They do not want to go into halftime losing by a lot of points, and they do not want to go into halftime without having that run game going. They need to test the Eagles linebackers. They need to test the Eagles corners. They need to run the ball efficiently early on. They've been very good at running the ball this year. So we'll see if they can do that. If they can do that, if they can keep it a close game, if the game comes down to being in Jayden Daniels' hand with a minute or 2 left, tie game, I do think he's a very, very, very potential threat. Because when the Eagles are in situations like that, they tend to make mistakes. And I'm not talking about just this year. I am just talking about almost every year. Every time the Eagles are in a close game, it gets very scary. And you know, whenever a game is close, as a fan, you never know what's gonna happen, right? I don't think anybody likes a close game. Not when it's a big game like this, right? I'd rather the Eagles just dominate this game so I can breathe and not have to worry about what's gonna happen. I think if it's a close game, the chances of the Eagles losing is very, very, very high. And that's because Jayden Daniels has proven he's clutch. He's proven it. He is very clutch. So there's no doubt about that. Probably the most clutch rookie we ever seen. You know, I wouldn't doubt it. But it's up to the Commanders to keep this game close. It's not up to the Eagles, right? I don't think that it's going to be as close as everybody thinks it is, just because I think the Eagles defense is going to take the ball at some point early on, hopefully, and they're going to capitalize off of that. Jake Elliott needs to hit these field goals. He needs to stop missing easy kicks. That's been very, very detrimental. And it's very, very confusing why he's not making short kicks, but he makes long kicks. I don't understand it. But Jake Elliott needs to be on point. It's critical for the Eagles' success, of course. I think that if the Eagles can take the ball early on and capitalize off of it, I think the Commanders are going to be in very, very big trouble. Especially if they get the ball first. If they get the ball first and the Eagles take it from them in that first possession and get the momentum early on, them boys are in big, big, big trouble. Big trouble. They cannot afford mistakes like that. They need to take care of the football. They need to dominate, because if the Eagles take the ball away from them like I think they are, and capitalize off of it, they're going to be in very big trouble. And then once the Eagles got a lead, all they really have to do is let Barkley go off. That's really all they have to do. They can just give Barkley the ball and, just melt the clock as much as possible. That's my breakdown of that game. That's my take on that game. I think the Eagles are the better team. They just got to do what they do best and take care of the football, and they should win this game. I'm going with the Eagles in that matchup. Let's move on to the next one. The next game is the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. Not gonna say that I'm surprised. I do think that the Ravens were a potential team to be at this point. We all know that. I think the majority of people had the Ravens coming this far. I try to tell y'all that the Bills were gonna beat the Chiefs in the regular season and give them that first L. And I tried to tell y'all that the Bills were going to slow down Henry and they were going to beat the Ravens. And a lot of you guys told me that that was not going to happen, that the Ravens were unstoppable running the ball, blah, blah, blah. And you saw what happened there. Josh Allen did not have an impressive performance, but he did what he had to do. Once again, took care of the football. That's all that matters. And he won the game. That's all that matters. And Josh Allen didn't need to put up that many yards, because he always puts up a lot of yards and he always puts up a lot of touchdowns, But I'm going to tell you what he didn't do. He didn't throw no interceptions. He's been taking care of the football so well this year, and that's exactly why he's in this position. Here's one of the key statistics, right? Josh Allen and the Bills are 4-1 in the regular season against Mahomes and the Chiefs, right? Mahomes and the Chiefs are 3-0 against Josh Allen and the Bills in the playoffs, in the postseason in general, right? So, long story short, Mahomes and the Chiefs is the reason why Josh Allen has not ever made it to a Super Bowl. It's almost like that is their kryptonite, right? And a lot of people, they faced each other 8 times in their career. This is going to be the 9th. A lot of people, right, think that because something happens so many times that it's just going to keep happening, right? But at the end of the day, these teams are not the same teams, right? And players are supposed to grow. They're supposed to get better. One thing that I think that Josh Allen has done, has Mahomes gotten better this season? I don't think so. I would argue that he did not. I would argue that he's regressing. He doesn't look like the Mahomes that we're used to seeing, right? I think that is where this is gonna turn the tide. I think this is where the tide changes. I think this is where the narrative changes. I got the Bills winning this game. The thing is, I don't have them blowing the Chiefs out. I think it's going to be a very, very, very close game. I think this game might come down to a field goal, to be honest. I think it's going to be a tie game. I think the Bills are going to have the ball last. They're going to go down the field, and they're going to trust their kicker to win them the game and send them to the Super Bowl. But statistically, right, offensively, rushing the ball, Buffalo averaged 136.2 rushing yards this season, makes them 9th in rushing total. Kansas City averaged 102.2 rushing yards, making them 24th in rushing. Big difference. So defensively, the Bills have allowed 116.7 rushing yards, which makes them 12th. Kansas City has allowed 104.4 rushing, making them 8th, right? Obviously, Buffalo's averaging almost 40 yards more than Kansas City rushing the ball. It's going to be very critical for their success. to run the ball very efficiently. As far as Josh Allen or Cooks goes, I don't know who's gonna have the better performance running the ball. But to be honest with you, I would love to see RPOs with the Bills. I think they can trust Josh Allen to not make mistakes with the football because he's been very good with it all year long. I think that they have an advantage when it comes to that because since Josh Allen is basically like a running back, right? You know, they have the option of literally confusing the defense on whether he's gonna run or if Cook is gonna run. And Cook is such a good runner too. He's been great this season, man. He honestly he really surprised me with how much success he's had with the Buffalo Bills. I just want to say hats off to him. Obviously hats off to Josh Allen. As far as Kansas City, I think they're gonna have trouble running the ball against this Bills defense. If the Bills were able to stop the Ravens, I don't see why it's gonna be any different for the Chiefs, right? That's just being realistic in my opinion. I think that where it's gonna come down to, it's gonna come down to the pass game with these two teams, right? Buffalo passing the ball, 224.3, right? Average a game, making them 11th, which is decent. As far as Kansas City goes, 219.8 passing yards average a game, making them 15th, right, for the regular season. And you guys are probably like, why is he talking about the regular season? What about the postseason? Well, at the end of the day, I have a lot more stats and evidence from the regular season, which gives you a better picture of how a team really is versus just the postseason, right? Because in the postseason, anything can happen. So at the end of the day, I like to focus on what's really been proven, not what's really. When you look at the postseason is still going, right? So the final result is pending. So we can't really look at the postseason as a whole until we see the Super Bowl as well, right? So I like to be more realistic with the statistics, right? So at the end of the day, I don't think a few weeks in the postseason erases everything they've done in the regular season, right? Like, I mean, you get to the postseason based off of what you do in the regular season. So yeah, I think passing the ball, they're going to be pretty evenly matched. I do think both quarterbacks are going to pass the ball well. And when it comes to passing defense, they're almost identical as well. Like, I mean, Buffalo's averaging, allowing 222.5 passing yards a game, which is similar to what the Chiefs have been getting, right? And it makes them 20th. That makes them 20th, which is really not that impressive against the pass. Same thing with Kansas City. They're 19th against the pass for the regular season, allowing 220.3 yards. So I don't see why both quarterbacks are not going to pass the ball good today. With all that being said, I think that if the Chiefs can run the ball really good against the Buffalo Bills early on, I like their chances of winning this game. You know, they're used to being in this. They feel comfortable in these situations. I mean, they live here. They eat and sleep the AFC Championship, man. Like, they've been running it for so long. But I think that this is going to be the time where the tide changes. Like I said, I'm going with the Bills in this one. I think that Josh Allen is going to have a great game. I think Mahomes is going to have a great game too, but I think that they're going to fall short. Because I think when it comes down to the defensive side of things, I think Buffalo is going to dominate when it comes down to certain critical moments. So I do think it's going to be a high-scoring game. But one main thing I want to bring to your attention, and this is why I really have the Bills winning. The Bills have 32 team takeaways, right? Fumbles, interceptions combined, right? The only other two teams that had more than them were the Vikings and the Steelers, right? They had 33, which was only a one different, like a one. That's it. That's the only difference, one. The Bills' defense is very aggressive, very good at taking the ball away. And I think that is the same reason why the Eagles are going to beat the Commanders, because that defense is very good at taking the ball away. And that is a statistic that people always seem to sleep on. You know, that is so critical to a team's success in winning games, right? It changes everything when you can take the ball at will or whenever you really need a big play. That is what separates teams, guys. So it's an uphill battle for a team that is not that good at taking the ball away or is not that aggressive on defense, right? That shows a different type of dominance. So I'm going with the Eagles to win because they're good at taking the ball away, and I'm going with the Bills in this matchup because they're good at taking the ball away. It's almost impossible to go a whole game without them even taking the ball away, right? So that's my take on that. I'm going with the Bills. I think it's going to be very competitive. I don't think it's going to be a double-digit win like how I think it's going to be with the Eagles and the Commanders. But, yeah, I like their chances of beating the Chiefs. I think they're going to change that whole story. I think this is going to be a Josh Allen day. I think this is going to be Amari Cooper needs to be big for them as well. He's been pretty quiet all year, but he needs to show up, and he needs to play like he's a veteran. I mean, I'm tired of Amari Cooper not really having big games, or because I think he's a great receiver. I think he's so good. We haven't really heard of a big game from him since last year, when he was on the Browns still, right? So I think Cooper's going to be very critical. I think Shakir's going to be very critical in this game for their success. I think Knox and Kincaid need to all play very good. You don't need special plays. You just need to move the ball efficiently, get those short passes. The Chiefs are very good at mixing up their blitzes and disguising what they're going to do. They're going to try to confuse Josh Allen when they pressure him, and they're going to try to force him to make mistakes. Even though he hasn't really been making mistakes, they're going to try to force him to do that. That's going to obviously have to be their game plan, and obviously they don't want him to run all over them, so they're going to have to put a spy on him, which is going to end up opening. It's going to end up opening. Somebody's going to get open. That is the type of situation where I think Amari Cooper can become very big because one-on-one, he can be very good. He's a big receiver. He's a big guy. He got hands. I'm not going to lie. He got hands. He doesn't really drop the ball. So that's going to be very critical for the Bills' success. If they can take the ball from the Chiefs and do what they've been doing all year, I really like their chances of winning this game. If they can't do that and they get into a shootout with these guys, we all know what happens when you get into a shootout with the Chiefs. We all know how that goes. And trust me, I'm a diehard Eagles fan. I've seen one play literally put them in position to win that game in the Super Bowl and, crush my spirit. And to this day, it still hurts. It still hurts. When I see those clips, when I see pictures of that, it just reminds me of another heartbreak. But at the end of the day, it's all irrelevant now. We're here now. This is where it matters. Anything that happened up until this point doesn't matter anymore. It's about today and today only for the moment. I got the Eagles beating the Commanders. I got the Bills beating the Chiefs. But if that comes down to a shootout, if both games come down to shootouts, I don't like the chances for the Eagles. I don't like the chances for the Bills. I really don't. These teams need to dominate. They need to dominate. They need to convincingly win. They need to control the game, and they need to run the ball efficiently. And if they do that, they'll win these games for sure. I think for both games, I think that there's a high chance that the Eagles put up a good 30-something points. I think there's a good chance that the Bills put up between 25 and 30 points. And as well as the Chiefs, I think they're going to do the same thing. As far as the Commanders, I think that it's going to be very hard for them to put up that many points on the Eagles if the Eagles' defense is playing really good like they should. Those are my picks, and I can't wait to see these games. It's going to be very, very, very interesting to see what happens today. We're going to see a lot of fireworks. And yeah, that's it, man. So go Birds, go Bills. Let's see what happens, guys. I'm excited. I hope you guys are excited. I'm going to be smiling all day. I'm going to be hype all day. I'm probably going to lose my voice. But yeah, it's been great. This is going to be great. I can't wait to see what happens. This is Lolo the Maverick. This is Maverick Mind Sports. And we are out of here.